Time Warner Cable's local edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. We are joined today by Steve Bradford. He is a member of the California State Assembly. And sir, there was recently a decision by a court here in California that declared the death penalty unconstitutional. And the reason was not the actual penalty itself, but the time with which it took to met out that penalty. What do you think of that?
I think it's a common sense approach. We're realizing that we're spending exorbitant amounts of money maintaining folks on death row who never are executed. But more importantly, it's been proven not only in California but throughout the nation that we've executed innocent people. So I think this more common sense approach of making sure that we spend money in a more responsible manner.
What's interesting about what you just said in terms of money is, yes, we are spending a lot of money on death row. There are about 900 on death row. Only 13 have been executed since we brought back the death penalty. But what the court said is, we're not spending enough to make the death penalty effective as a deterrent or for a punishment purpose.
I don't think death penalty will ever be a deterrent, especially when we see a majority of murders are crimes of passion. So people are not sitting here contemplating, am I going to get death penalty if I commit this crime? So I don't think that's going to be the deterrent if we spend more money.
What's also interesting to me about the decision is the person who wrote the decision was appointed by President George Bush, a Republican. The current Chief Justice of the California Supreme Court, she's a Republican appointee. She has said that the death penalty is no longer effective. Her predecessor, Ron George, called California's death penalty dysfunctional. I mean, you have a wave of conservative justices who you would think would be supportive of the death penalty are coming out strongly against at least the implementation of California's death penalty.
Without a doubt, and I think that should send a strong message to many of those proponents who still think it's an effective deterrent that we do need to tweak it in some way. Whether you do away with it altogether, I don't know, but it definitely needs to be tweaked.
And it's interesting, at the same time you have California acting a bit schizophrenic on the issue. I mean, there's no doubt that we are in a bluer state with more progressive policies when it comes to criminal justice, yet California had a chance to kick out the death penalty in November 2012. They voted against that. Polls continue to suggest that Californians support the death penalty, while more conservative states are eliminating the death penalty.
That's true.
And so what does that say to you? I mean, especially as a student of government and a member of the legislature.
I think it's a discussion that we need to have, and I think many of us, be it Democrats or Republicans, have shied away from having a real grown-up conversation on where do we go from here, and I think the time is right now to address this issue in a real way.
So does this decision create that grown-up discussion? Because on the one hand, it could be a moment in time that allows for a discussion, or it could be, oh, it's going to go through appeals, and let's just ignore it. And, I got a bunch of press releases from you and your colleagues. This was a great decision. This was a terrible decision. But now what?
I hope it's the catalyst for us to really sit down and address it. And again, I've said this often now with 12-year members, I think they will take on some of the more complex, more controversial issues because they're going to have time to get it right. It won't be one of these knee-jerk reactionary type piece of legislation.
What's the answer? I mean, I'm not sure if you're an absolute opponent of the death penalty, but let's, for argument's sake, say you're not. And what do we need to make this work?
I think a real holistic view of how we're housing these folks, what's the process of getting them to the final decision, whether, and also, again, using the evidence that we have, because we've proven that we've executed some innocent folks too.
Not in California, but we've heard.
But yeah, in other places. So until we can assure that you got it right 100%, hold off.
He is Steve Bradford. He is a member of the California State Assembly. I'm Brad Pomerance. It's Time Warner Cable's local edition.